There are over 100,000 people who immigrate to New Zealand every year with the intention to make New Zealand their home, leaving behind everything they know as normal day-to-day life and having to learn new ways of doing things, new norms, new cultures, and different values. There are many people who struggle with this transition and find it challenging to adjust and settle, so they can call and make New Zealand their home. The purpose of this podcast is for me to share my journey and our challenges with the hope that you can learn from me and my family and have a softer landing. There will be good days and bad days, but with time, more good days. I believe we have made the right choice for our family. I want to try and help you do the same, but hopefully with a softer landing. This is Soft Landing, and I am your host, Brett Corlett.
Welcome to this podcast, designed for anyone thinking about preparing for or who has just immigrated to New Zealand. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode. Drawing from his personal experience, this series will guide you through the process of preparing for your move and helping you navigate the challenges of immigration.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Nice to have you join me again. So I'm going to carry on with my podcast, but I'm going to carry on with the series that I'm calling Our Journey Continues. I will still do the other episodes that I'm doing with Evandy around migration and money. So I'll continue with those. But I thought I just also wanted to share a little bit around our journey and our story of moving here to New Zealand. So I picked it up on the last one, just talking post the 9 months of being here and talking towards the end of 2023, leading up to Christmas and some of the tough realities that we're hitting home and what was going on in the background with us. And I just want to pick that up now from pretty much post-Christmas, starting in January of 2024. So really, as I mentioned, one of the things that my wife was trying to do was she was trying to find a job. We did say for the first year that we would live on just the one income. And the idea was always from year 2 that we'd be able to get 2 incomes. So my wife had been job hunting, and with her skills, they were sought after. She got quite a few interviews actually just before Christmas. And actually she was lucky enough to be able to have 2 options on the plate. And anyway, long story short, she did choose one of the 2 companies, and that meant that she accepted the offer and she was going to start working in January of 2024. So, which was exciting. I mean, that's something that we really wanted, but just considering that we had just found out the news about her sister and that she wasn't well, it was tough trying to juggle a little bit, with knowing that she really wanted to be back home and really wanted to actually just be there for her sister and her mom and her family and everything like that. But now she also had to try be in this mindset of not only supporting us as a family here in New Zealand, but also just trying to get into the mindset, okay, I've got to think work now, and I haven't been working for almost the past year, and I've got all this extra pressure. So I know it was extremely difficult for her. So as I mentioned before, she's an extremely tough woman, and it's just amazing how she's being able to get through all of this, especially now that I talk about it and think back what she had to go through. It's absolutely incredible. But anyway, point is she was getting ready to accept that job offer now and start work in January. What was also tough is we had also been given notice by our landlord, so we were trying to find a new rental, but over Christmas, January, everything comes to a grinding halt here over December, especially the second half of December, right the way up until probably the end of January. Most things are extremely slow. They only really pick up from February. So the hunt for trying to find a new home, there weren't a lot of rentals in the area we wanted to be that were coming onto the market. And also, we also found to try and find those rentals, you kind of got to really go do the viewing when they launch it and then post that a week or 2 later. Is if you get accepted, you move in. So it moves quite quickly, but it's stressful because it's very close to your date of actually moving out. So regardless, we were trying to find a new home, so we were looking around, but it also meant we were getting boxes and we were doing a lot of packing at the same time. So our household was also upset with all of that, not to mention that starting in January now, the kids had to get back into school. We're struggling a little bit with my daughter, with the kindy that she was at. She wasn't happy at that kindy, so there was a lot of separation anxiety, and especially now, post having a break over December and Christmas and being home together as a family now, trying to get her back to school. So that was a challenge for my wife as well, and I now also trying to think about my daughter and getting her back to school and not feeling in a good space. Also, it's my son's birthday in January, so it's his birthday at the end of January. So over and above everything else that's going on, you're trying to keep normal life going as well, so that you could, not impact the kids too much. So you're trying to put on that brave face and trying to get into a bit of a routine. And keep the routine going, and also obviously trying to do some planning for his birthday and make sure you make a bit of effort for him and make him feel important as well, which is challenging and really tough when there's so much going on in your life at one point in time. Also, what was happening is now I had to go back to work, and I mentioned that they were talking about a consultation period or a restructure. So when I got back into the office and started getting into the groove of things into January, into February, that's when we did find out, yes, we were going to be going through a consultation period. So it's the first time that I've gone through a consultation or a restructure here in New Zealand. What they were trying to explain was it was more to just restructure your responsibilities in your job and what you would be focused on and would be needed from you. So you would almost have to reapply for your positions. There was also talk that of all of us in the same type of position, there wouldn't be the equivalent amount of positions. So potentially one person would be losing their job. So it was really stressful. Thinking, geez, man, I'm the only income earner at the moment, and I'm feeling quite worried that I won't be able to keep the income coming in and I need to provide for the family. I was very grateful that my wife had got a job. So at least she'd be starting a job. So God forbid something goes wrong and I don't keep my job. At least we had one income coming in again, which would be hers. The tough part was knowing the amount of pressure this was already putting on her. I knew she was under a ton of pressure as it was, trying to support her sister with her illness from here in New Zealand, trying to support her mom, trying to figure out finding another place for them, because what actually happened is at the end of January we found out that her sister passed away. She unfortunately couldn't beat the cancer, and man, it's just, it was so much all happening at once, and I'm trying to get my timeline so I can explain this to you and give it justice, but I'm really talking from January to March now of 2024, and it was the new year. As I said, my wife had just started her job. She probably started, I can't even remember exactly, but let's say it was probably the middle of January that she had started. I know she had started at her new job, and she was probably only 10 days in, and that's when my sister-in-law passed away. So I don't even know how she got through this, how she coped, because it's like the kids were starting school again. It's the start of the new year. She started a new job. 10 days in, my sister-in-law passes away. Now she's worried about her mother and where she would stay, because she was staying with my sister-in-law who has now passed. It wasn't a rental, and the rental that they were staying in South Africa is a lease that we had signed for them. So now we had the added pressure of also making sure financially we keep paying that, because my mother-in-law needs to stay in that home, but we know she can't stay there by herself because she needs help. But we also knew my nephew was staying with her as well, but my nephew can't stay with her forever as well. So now we had to now consider, how do we actually kick off the adoption process and actually officially trying to adopt my nephew. So that's also when, at the same time, we were reaching out to Orangatamāriki, which is the children's ministry here in New Zealand. We actually reached out to them just before my sister-in-law passed away. So we told them that she's ill, and we now knew that she wasn't going to be able to beat this, and it was actually just a timing of she had like weeks to live. So we knew we would have to kick off the process. So that's why we engaged with the Orangatamāriki, so that they could start prepping us and telling us the whole process and what we'd have to go through and all the paperwork and whatever else. And that it would only officially start after she passes, when we get the death certificate and we can actually get that process going. They did obviously explain to us that we would need to officially adopt my nephew legally, because that's the only way we'd be able to get him across here onto our residency visas, so that he could permanently stay here. He had to be considered one of our children to be able to form part of our visas. So we knew that process would have to kick off. But from what we were hearing from a lot of people, it's a process that takes a good part of a year. to actually happen. But we were assured our process was a simple process, and it shouldn't be too difficult. I'll get into that more. It's turns out it wasn't as simple as we'd hoped. But anyway, we were assured it'd be simple. And then our goal was really to try get my nephew here before the Christmas of 2024. His birthday was in September. We were really hoping, hey, if we could even get him here before September, that would be even better. But we did know it would be a good couple of months before we could get him here. So we knew in the beginning of that year, over and above now, my wife starting a job, trying to arrange everything with her sister's passing and the memorial and all of that. We were also kicking off trying to adopt my nephew at the same time, also trying to find another place and how we were going to time her mother moving out and moving somewhere, and where, and where was my nephew going to stay. I was going for, trying to get interviews as well, because as I told you, there was a consultation period that was now officially going to be kicking off. So now I was more stressed about finding another job. So I was applying for jobs at the same time. My daughter just was struggling with kindy and the separation anxiety and getting her back to school. So we're trying to find and push at the school that we had her on a list for, which we really wanted her to be in, to try and get that interview so we could get that done. And then in between it, also try to put on a happy face for my son for his birthday. It was his 13th as well. So it was a big one for him. So we had to try and do all of that in January, February, and then pack boxes and try to find a house at the same time. So really, I'm just compounding how that quarter, that beginning of the year, it almost felt like we should have been a year in, and we were hoping to, after a year, start feeling like we're heading in the right direction and everything would be coming together. But we were a year in and we felt like the pressure was on. It was like a deck of cards, and it had just imploded on itself and everything was really coming down. So it was really, really a tough time for all of us. I know that one of the most heartbreaking things is when my sister-in-law passed away and my wife had to attend the memorial online in the middle of the night all by herself. And I know it's hard. I know I'm busy going through this journey, and I even know this morning my wife was trying to listen to the podcast, my previous one, and she couldn't. It's just too much. It's too raw. It's too real. It's also still only 2 years in, and actually while I'm recording this, it's January now. So it is just too much. But just thinking back how she had to go through that. And from my side, it's just the guilt of not being able to let her go home, financially being able to pay for her to go back and actually be there with her mom and my nephew and family and everything like that, and almost feeling guilty because she had to stay here and support us here and somehow go through all of this. It's a tough one, man. You know, you could go through the ifs and buts and should we have done this and could we have done it better, but I just know it was a really tough time for her, trying to deal with that with her sister passing, not to mention everything else that we had to do with Oranga Tamariki now, and kicking all of that off with trying to get the adoptions in place, because with us in the scenario we were in, his father is still alive, my nephew's father, but we had to now go through the process where he unfortunately isn't in a financial position to be able to support him. So the only way we could adopt him now is we also had to kick off the process where he had to relinquish his rights as a parent. So there's a whole legal process to follow with that. So it was just a lot of information and a lot to deal with all at the same time. So it can get really rough. Not to mention when we had to also find another place, and I know we eventually did in that first quarter because we had to be out by March. So at least it did work out. It really, if there's anything I can show you of, it is stressful waiting up for what feels like lastminute.com and finding a rental with the timelines, but they seem to move very quickly. So it was a week or two before we had to move out that we did find one that was in the area. It was perfect. We're able to put forward our applications, get accepted, and all within 2 weeks it was all okay, we're going to be moving. But then that in itself brought on other worries, because now I know we have to move, and now all our furniture had arrived. Whereas when we moved the first few times, if you listen to the first few episodes, we're still waiting for our container. So you don't have as much stuff to move. So it's not as much big, heavy stuff to move. So it was a lot easier doing those moves. I'm not saying it was easy, but it was easier. But now we had a full house of stuff and furniture to move, and we don't have any friends or anybody that could help us, well, as per se. So it was like stressing, how the hell are we going to get this done? Physically trying to pick pick up furniture and move it around, and doing it yourself. So what we ended up doing is, there's a friend of mine that I went to school with back in South Africa that's moved here, but he's a good half an hour's drive away from where we are. But he was absolutely awesome. We reached out to him and said, please, we just need some help. Can you, just with the big stuff, if you can help me just move that. I'm renting a truck, and just help me get it into the truck. And I can tell you, even dealing with the truck again, if you listen to my other podcast, in the beginning, I actually crashed the first truck that we've ever rented before in the first move in the very beginning. So I was very nervous doing this thing again with a truck, but I can tell you this time didn't crash the truck. So that was all fine. And having my friend come up, he came up, helped us in the morning first. We moved all the big stuff first into the new house, put it in all the right places, and then my wife and I could then continue after that, just going back and forth and get everything else. So at least it all did work out with the rental. So by the March, we were able to move homes. And I can tell you now, we are 3 years in New Zealand, and we're still in that same home. So we've almost been in that house for almost 2 years now. So at least that's stable, got a bit more stable. So we didn't have to move around a lot. But at that point in time, in the beginning of 2024, man, having to move house and packing boxes and whatever else, that was a pain on top of everything else that was going on. The heartbreak to see my wife having to go through mourning her sister from afar and not being able to go back, that was hard. I'll talk through the next couple of episodes and just share with you how tough it was, and even now with the challenges with my nephew and adopting him, and that process, man, what a process we had to go through, and what a roller coaster ride. At points we even thought at one stage we weren't even going to be able to get it right, and then we were really stressed. What does that mean for my nephew? If we can't adopt him and we can't get him here, how is he going to not survive? But he's a teenager at that stage. He was 16, so he was older, but he's still got so much to learn. He wasn't ready to go out into the big bad world and look after himself yet. He still needed support. So if we couldn't get him here, how was that going to work out for him? So that was a constant worry as well. It was really hard. So yeah, I think I'm just trying to give you the timeline, and I'm trying to break it down into smaller pieces. I'm not going to do a long hours podcast, but just carrying on with that journey. That first quarter was rough, a lot going on. So for those of you that are here and are a year in, or whatever stage in your journey, everybody has their story, and I mentioned that last time, and it can get really, really, really rough, okay, sometimes. But if we've made this work and we've been able to get through all of this, I'm telling you guys, you can do this. You can make this work. You've got to keep reminding yourself why you're doing this. Hopefully you have a strong why for why you want to do this. I've mentioned before, mine is my kids, because that's what sometimes just gets you through those tough days. It's really what helps you get on with it and just keep pushing forward. So yeah, talking timelines wise, January, February, March 2024, that first quarter. Geez, if life can throw a lot of you at all at once, we were feeling the pressure. We're really feeling the strain. And what I would have given to be able to have some family here to support us, or have some friends to talk to, I promise you, it would have been great. Because even at times, because I know my wife had so much on her shoulders and so much going on, as much as you need to communicate with each other, which we did do, there was times when I'm thinking, I just can't tell her how I'm feeling. I can't. How can I add to that? She's got so much she's trying to deal with. And the amount of tears and the amount of emotions that were going on. And then, I can't even begin. It's rough, man. It's really, really rough. But somehow you get through it, eh? You just can't give up. You just keep pushing on, especially when you've got little kids. You've got to be strong for them and just keep pushing forward. I think what I'll do is I'll pick up in the next episode and I'll tell you a little bit more about, how it went post us getting into the rental. So that's obviously some positives, but I'll carry on picking up on how it was going with the adoption process and what that process was all about, trying to talk it through on the timeline. I'll pick up around a consultation and how that works here in New Zealand, and going through a restructure, because that was not fun, really not fun. But I can tell you I've been through more than one now. Seems to be something they do quite regularly here. But I'll also talk a little bit around the interview process, because the positive is I eventually did start picking up some interviews. But that was really probably only from about February onwards. So again, just reiterating, things really slow down here, second half of December, right the way until probably the end of January. So if any of you are in that stage ever trying to look for a job, just keep going. Don't give up. And I know you can get despondent because you think, geez, man, what's wrong with me? Why don't they want to meet with me? And you sometimes literally are sending out almost hundreds of interview requests, and to get declined all the time, yeah, it can hit hard, man. It can seriously make you doubt yourself. So just, if there's any there, just don't give up. You just need that one offer. So I'll talk through that a little bit more. Just trying to share my story so that hopefully, as I said, soft landing is all about you learning from me. Whether it's you can learn and do better, or it's just to give you peace of mind that you're not alone, that you're not the only one going through this. So maybe that's my ask, is if you are going through a tough time, you need somebody to talk to, you got any questions, reach out. I'm here to help. We're here to help each other. So don't try do this alone. And if you need to reach out, talk to somebody, you need to, I don't know, got questions on anything, ask, and I'll help wherever I can. Till next time though, till the next episode, you guys must keep well, and we'll chat soon. Ciao.